Hey friends! In this video I have a huge pen haul for you. Most of these are pens that could be used with brush lettering, though there are a couple of gel type of pens for journaling that were new to me, and you will see lots of swatches in this video. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to get right into it. If you're looking for the product details, I will leave those and the links in the description box below. I also wanted to quickly mention that I created this free printable page for doing pen tests if you are also a pen lover and wanted to print out these pages for your own pen testing. They weren't finished until after this haul video was recorded, so I didn't have a chance to use them in this video, but I did want to mention them. So I will leave a link in the description box below if you want to go check those out and print them out. They are in a blog post where I show how I store my pens, and you can grab them within that post. So let's get right into the haul. The first thing that I want to mention is that I did get a new dot grid journal. I actually asked you guys on Instagram which dot grid journals you used and then bought a couple of different ones because I know that sometimes you guys like to see if these products bleed through the paper, but honestly there were just too many pens for me to add in journals and the other stationery products that I got. So I'm just going to save those and let me know if you want to see a video just on paper types and on journal types, and if so, are there any specific pens that you want tested in them. But for this video, I am mostly using this Rhodia dot grid journal that has super smooth paper, and hopefully this can help to prevent my new brush pens from all fraying too quickly. So the first pack of pens that I have are the Fudebiyori Metallic brush pens. These are actually not new to me. They were one of the first brush pens that I purchased when I first began experimenting with brush pens. And honestly, my first set still writes as far as I know, but I got some other metallic markers that you'll see later on, and I know some of you are going to want to see a comparison. And I didn't think that it was fair to compare 2-year-old markers to brand new ones, so I grabbed this pack to replace my old ones. I was completely fine repurchasing them because, as you can see, they write beautifully. If you're not familiar with this style of brush pens, they are a great size and flexibility for brush lettering. I tend to think that the in-between size of not a super tiny brush pen, but also not the largest of the large, can be really good for beginners. I also wanted to test these out on black paper because that tends to make the metallics stand out beautifully. This is another new paper that I got and was testing out to see if I could find a smoother black paper, and as you can see in comparison, they both look beautiful, but the black does seem to make the colors pop a bit more. I did write a bit larger on the right hand side than I did on the left, so you can see that you can get a bit of a variety with this brush pen. The next brush pens that I have are also ones that I bought for comparison's sake, and that is the Ecoline brush pen. I get a lot of questions about this one, and again, my set was pretty old, so I thought that it was time to replace them. I actually do not have all of the markers in this set in the first clip because I gave a few of them away in a recent giveaway over on Instagram, so I am missing, I believe, 5 of the colors in this swatch example. But I did a quick swatch of them before I sent them out, so you'll see that at the end with a different type of paper. But one of my favorite things about these markers is that they are dual tipped, and I don't mean that they have 2 ends to the actual marker, but rather that the tip on the end of this pen is pointed at both sides. So if you notice that yours starts to fray, you can simply unscrew the cap here at the top and carefully take the marker tip out, flip it over, and place it back inside. This is kind of messy, so you can do this with your hands like I've done in the past, or you could use a tweezers or use rubber gloves. Either way, be careful to put the tip back in so that you get it placed and pushed into the correct spot so that your tip is the same size as the rest of your markers. I find personally that it's a bit easier for me to letter in a larger style with this brush pen because I can push down really hard and get a really thick downstroke, but it is possible to letter a bit smaller than I'm showing here. You can see here at the end that I've written the word hi 3 times using the same color and same pen. This is just one example of the variations that you can get when you push a bit harder and write a bit larger with your brush pen. So hopefully soon, now that I have this set, I will go ahead and do a comparison between this and the Winsor & Newton watercolor brush markers. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything specific that you want to know in regards to those 2 pens and how they compare with each other. And here's that quick swatch of the entire pack of colors with a bit of blending at the end. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend too much blending without using actual watercolor paper because it just kind of tore up my paper, but I wanted to try it out since it came with this blender pen. So the next product that I have is one that I had never tried before, and that's the Artist Loft Dual Brush Pen. I have had requests for a review of these before and for a long time. I think that because they look kind of like a dupe of the Tombow dual brush pens, some of you guys have wanted to know if they write the same. And to be honest, one reason why I hadn't tried them yet is because they really aren't that inexpensive. I'm not sure what the exact price is, but I know that when I've seen them at Michael's, I didn't really feel like they were a steal compared to the actual Tombow dual brush pens, but I finally decided to grab some off of Amazon just to see what I thought about them. So I for sure need to spend some more time lettering with these before I do a full review, but at first thought they don't feel like a dupe of the Tombow dual brush pen to me. But I do like them. They do kind of feel similar to me, but softer, if that makes sense. Like, they don't flatten out to one side when I push on them, so that's good. But they don't feel bouncy in the same way that a dual brush pen does. As for the colors, they are really beautiful and I love the way the lettering looks with them. I also really did like the bullet tip, which I find I'm usually a fan of with these styles of dual tip brush pens. But as usual, I don't necessarily think it warrants buying an expensive pack of brush pens just for the bullet tip side. Overall, I had a pretty good first impression of this brush pen, but I think that the true test for me will be to see how long they hold up. So I will keep practicing with these and I will get back to you. The next brush pen that I have is the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Brush Pen. These are also a repurchase for me, and they also have that dual tip like the Ecolines that I showed you, where you can flip it over and replace the tip if you need to. I'll leave a link in the description box below for a video showing that exact process if you want to see that in action. I know that some people have differing opinions about these brush pens because they do tend to fray pretty quickly, but I really do like how they write, especially for a bouncier style of hand lettering. The tip is just very bouncy with these brush pens, so if you're not a fan of that, like for example the Marvy Karin Markers, if you don't like those, then you may also not be a huge fan of these. But if you're like me and you like a brush pen that has a really good bounce to it and you like to be able to push down really hard and your pen bounce back up, then you might like these. The downside to me with these are the color packs. As you can see, some of these are hardly visible even though my brightness seems to be a bit lower. That is super pretty for other types of art, but it can be difficult in lettering because we want to be able to read and see the details of what we've written. There are other color packs that are darker, and I have bought other ones before, and I'm pretty sure that you can find these as singles in stores. I want to say Michael's. I could be wrong about that, but let me know in the comments below if you have found these as singles in stores. That might be helpful if you want just a specific color, but overall I really like how these write. Like I said, for that bouncy style, if I'm going to do a little bit smaller of lettering, these are just a fun one to practice with. The next pens that I have are also the Faber-Castell brand, but they are the Big Brush pens. I've had a single one of the Big Brush pen in black and decided to splurge on this set. The colors were really pretty and I wanted to test them out for you guys. These are another set that I'm going to need to spend a longer time lettering with because of the price. I definitely want to know that they'll last a bit of time before fraying. I have just one single one of these and I'm not sure how long I've had it, but I think it's pretty frayed. So I wanted to test them out and just kind of pay attention to that and see how long that they will last me before fraying. You'll see at the end that the black swatch is really glossy, but not so much the other colors, so I'm going to have to try this out on some different papers to see if that changes or if that's just the nature of these brush pens. These are also obviously pretty large, and I think I'd feel more comfortable lettering with them if I weren't trying to letter inside of a small journal page. But like I said, I'm going to do some more testing with these. I have recently purchased several different kinds of paper, marker paper and tracing paper. So I will do some testing and try to update you guys later. You can always follow me over on Instagram at How to Hand Letter, where I post a little bit more frequently as far as like new products that I've tried or maybe updates. So if you're on Instagram, you can also find me there as well. The next pens that I have are the Karin metallic markers, and I do also have the large set that I will show you next. You guys have been asking for a review of these markers, and I will have one coming soon. The company was nice enough to send these to me as a gift. This isn't a sponsored video or anything like that. They just sent these to me as a gift and I just thought I would share them with you. So you can obviously see for yourself how absolutely beautiful these colors are. And again, I will do a comparison between these and the Fudebiyori in another video so that you can see them side by side. But I honestly don't think that you can go wrong with either of them. I think that at this point it might come down to the colors that you prefer, and if you have a very specific type of brush pen tip that you like. They are pretty similar, but they don't feel identical to me. But again, they are both beautiful. They both write really nicely, and I really don't think you can go wrong with them. And here's an example of them on that black paper again that I used with the other brush pens. They just really pop. These markers are really juicy, and I did find with these metallic markers that if you shake them a bit, you can get the ink flowing really nicely. So every couple of strokes, I just kind of gave it a little shake. You may also want to recap them when you do this, or just shake really gently, but that did get the ink flowing really nicely. Alright, so here is the long-awaited Karin Brush Marker Pro demonstration, and yes, I am swatching all of these. So as you guys can see, they are beautiful. There are so many colors and they're gorgeous. A lot of people say that these are just like the Sharpie stained, and while I don't disagree, I don't think they're identical either. To me, the Sharpie stained tips feel like they might be a little bit more firm. Not necessarily like in how it bounces, but just the feel of the brush tip, which does make sense because the Sharpie stained is actually a fabric marker, so it's probably really sturdy to hold up for when people use it on a piece of fabric, like if you're coloring on a t-shirt or something. It would make sense that the Sharpie stained would have a really strong tip. This one is a similar size, but it does feel a bit softer to me. That being said, it is still amazing. I love the in-between size and the beautiful color options. You can see that these markers are very juicy and that they're taking a quick second to dry. I did sample a bit of blending at the end. My paper wasn't quite thick enough to hold up to it in the journal, but the second paper did hold up a bit better. Blending is definitely not my specialty, so it's very basic, but I wanted to show you a quick example in case you were wondering about that. So overall, some of the great things about these brush pens is that they're very juicy. They come in a lot of different color options, as you can see here. And I have heard many things about the tip of these pens lasting for a really long time. I did get at least one comment that said that they bought these and the tip frayed somewhat quickly, but I haven't necessarily noticed that or had that experience, so I'm definitely going to be testing these out a bit more. I've seen a lot of people use them even on watercolor paper, which is kind of a no-no when it comes to brush pens unless you're prepared for them to fray. But again, I'm going to have to do some more testing with these and see how long that can last for me. I think I might have to try to figure out a way to like separate a few of my pens, maybe put like washi tape on them or something, and then just test them out on tons of terrible paper and see which ones hold up the best. I don't know, maybe I should do that with some of these and see which ones last longest. I will sacrifice a few pens for the sake of finding a brush pen that does not fray very quickly. So let me know in the comments below if you want to see that. The next brush pen I'm going to show you are these Fibralo brush pens. Honestly, I'm not sure how to say that name, so I will just leave the links below if you want to check them out. These are actually a new brush pen for me. I can't remember where I saw them. It might have been Instagram, but I bought them on Amazon, and when they came, I tested them out and loved them. So they aren't a super tiny brush pen like a Fude sized pen, but they aren't huge, and I felt like I got some really good smaller size lettering with them. They are really bouncy, and you can see some really thin upstrokes with this brush pen. One thing I would say is I would love to see a few more colors of these. It's not that I didn't like the colors, but there were just a few colors like the purple and the pink and the green that really popped. And so it would be fun to see some more rich colors like that. I think that these are really great for a more bouncy style of lettering, especially where you want to kind of exaggerate those really thin lines. And I just think that the size is really unique and fun, and I'm really enjoying these brush pens so far. The next pen set that I'm showing you here is the Papermate Inkjoy gel pens. These were a request by one of you, and I know that my stationery collection is a bit crazy, but I do try to get the things that you have specifically wanted to be reviewed, so if you ever have a request, just leave it in the comments, and when I see something that y'all are wanting to know about, I do try to pick it up if I can. But I love the color variation in these. The swatches are absolutely beautiful, and I felt like overall the pens did write really smoothly. These write a bit darker and thicker than some of the others, so I love that for things like list making so that the colors really stand out. I did share some lettering with these in my Instagram stories, I think right after I got them. So if you want to see a little bit more lettering with these, you can go check out my stories on Instagram. They might be in my Instagram highlights, but I can't remember exactly, so I will try to go ahead and use these again on Instagram stories just to give you a little bit more of a close-up look. And I'm just at How to Hand Letter over on Instagram as well. The next pens that I have are the Pilot Precise V5, which say they're the extra fine. At first try, I thought that these wrote really smoothly. I do tend to have better luck with these types of pens when I write more slowly. If I'm writing super quickly, they don't look as nice or don't get as like bold of an ink flow, if that makes sense. So I like to write pretty slowly with these. It's always difficult for me. I always find myself speeding up my lettering. But I find that my love for these types of pens kind of goes along with how slowly I'm writing. So if you haven't found that you get the same look, or if your ink skips or something like that, one thing that can help is a really smooth paper. It definitely seems that I like my pens better when I'm using them on a smooth paper like this journal or some of the other marker papers that I've tried. And the other thing is just to kind of slow down your writing and see if that helps at all. I like this kind of a pen for things with thinner pages like Bible journaling. I don't think I've tried these specific ones in my Bible journal, but I will definitely have to do that because I think they'll be really nice for that. The next pen set that I grabbed were these Uniball Signo pens, and I also have the white ones to show you in a bit. I love the color variety of these, and they do write really nicely. At first I felt like I wasn't going to like them at all because they write very finely, and I wasn't sure if that would be too small for me or not, but by the end I really did like them, and I think I'll be using these in my bullet journal or Bible journal. I do tend to like a bit thicker of a pen typically, but for things with really thin pages like certain journals or a Bible, these seem like they would be really nice. I know it's weird, but I feel like there are just certain pens that just help my handwriting look better, and some that no matter what I do, my handwriting just doesn't look very nice. Maybe that's just me, I'm not really sure. So do you guys ever feel that way, or is that totally just me? Like there are certain pens that no matter what, they make it hard to write neatly with. Maybe it's just me, but I'm just curious to know. But the smoothness of these pens plus the smoothness of the paper was just a good combination for me. And I think maybe I did purchase these pens in a little bit larger of a size as well, kind of on accident. Since I filmed this video, I was trying to buy the Pentel Sparkle Pop gel pens, I think they're called. And I think it's these that I bought in shimmer. So I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure that those write with a little bit thicker of a line than these do. But like I said, I didn't have a chance to film those ones yet. And here I'm just testing out one of the Uniball Signo white pens that I got over some black lettering. And I'll also show this on black paper. This is a great white pen, and I haven't had a chance to compare it to my other white gel pen yet, but it really stood up to the test of writing over black. So I definitely can't wait to use this one more. I love that the way this pops on the black paper, and it's just a really fun way to experiment with some monoline lettering. The next two sets of brush pens that I'm showing you are watercolor brush pens. They were both sent to me as gifts from the company, so thank you to them for sending these. The first ones are the Sangria watercolor brush pens, and I kind of think that a lot of you might purchase this type of a brush pen. And what I mean by that is a pen that has this brush tip that has real bristles instead of like a felt tip brush pen. So let me know if that's what you have tried before, or if this is what you used when you first began lettering. It seems like I get a decent amount of comments asking about this type of a brush pen, and I really don't show this type of a brush pen quite as often, but as you can see, you are able to do some brush lettering with them. It does feel a bit different than a brush marker to me and takes a bit of a different technique, because if you write too quickly, you're going to get a streaky look to your lettering. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's just a stylistic preference, but I wanted to show you an example of both and how you can get a more streaky style of lettering or how you can get a more even style of lettering. These are also a watercolor type of pen, so if you're someone who likes to do a lot of blending, these can also be really fun. I'm just showing an example by using two colors and then blending them together using my water brush. You could also try to use them by putting some ink down onto a plastic palette or something like that, and then trying to pick up the color with your water brush. So in that case, you'd be using your water brush for your actual lettering, but you'd be using the colors from your watercolor brush pens. It also does look like I switched over to my Archer and Olive bullet journal for these since the pages are thicker. This is a great option for a bullet journal if you like to use things like watercolor or watercolor markers, and if you don't want to have it bleed through onto the other side. The pages are really thick, and I've used lots of different types of watercolors and markers. I've had a really good experience with using some of that stuff and then not really seeing anything show through on the other side. So if that's important to you, that is a great bullet journal to check out. So as you can see, the colors here are beautiful, and it comes with lots of different options. So I'm going to show you a similar style of swatches and practice using these Colorit watercolor brush pens. These colors feel a bit more muted to me, which is also really pretty. And you'll see a bit of that streaking that I talked about in some of these colors. So I didn't have as great of luck blending here, so I'm going to have to try this again on watercolor paper, and I'll try to share that over on my Instagram stories. But the great thing about these kinds of watercolor brush pens, like this one and the one I just showed you previously, is that you don't fray the tip when you use them on actual watercolor paper. So because they're actual bristles instead of like a felt tipped brush marker, you can get away with using these on watercolor paper, and then you can probably get some really nice blending using paper that is made a little bit more for blending like that. So I'll definitely have to do some more testing and let you know about that. Like I said, blending isn't really my specialty. If you guys have any good color combinations, let me know in the comments below what you would like to see, because that's something I struggle with. I know the techniques of blending and I know the techniques of lettering, but when it comes to just putting colors together and making them look beautiful, that's not my specialty. It's not something I've practiced a lot, so that's probably part of it. But let me know if there are some color combinations that you think would look nice together, and I can try to test some of those over on my Instagram stories. So if you want to see another pen haul video, here is a link to my playlist that has my pen hauls in it. Please do not judge my stationery buying habits. I do it to share with you guys, so I hope you enjoy. I'm also going to leave that blog post link below for those pen test pages. If you guys want to print those out, use them for yourself, tag me over on Instagram so I can see how you are using them. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.